There are moments in life when nothing on the outside seems to be changing, but everything on the inside is shifting. You may feel like you've been stuck, overlooked, or waiting far longer than you expected. But hear this clearly, God is about to change your life forever. Not just improve it, not just give you a small breakthrough. He's about to do something so significant that you will look back and say, that was the moment everything turned around. This season you're in is not an accident. It's not random. It's not punishment. It's preparation. God has been quietly arranging things behind the scenes, moving people, closing doors, opening new paths, getting you ready for a change that will last. What you thought was a setback was actually a setup. What felt like a delay was divine timing. You didn't go through what you went through for nothing. The nights you cried in silence, the prayers you whispered when no one else believed, the strength you had to find when you felt empty. All of that was shaping you, stretching you, and qualifying you for what's coming next. God never wastes pain. If He allowed it, He's going to use it. You may feel like you've just been surviving, trying to get through the day, holding on with everything you have. But God is shifting you from survival to overflow, from barely enough to more than enough, from just getting by to living with purpose and confidence. The pressure you've been under is proof that something big is about to be released. Some of the prayers you thought God forgot, He didn't forget them. He was saving them for the right moment, and that moment is closer than you think. Delayed prayers are about to turn into sudden testimonies. One phone call, one opportunity, one encounter, one decision. God can change everything in an instant. What tried to break you will end up blessing you. The rejection will make sense. The loss will be redeemed. The disappointment will turn into direction. God has a way of using what the enemy meant for harm and turning it into something greater than you imagined. You're not coming out the same. You're coming out stronger, wiser, and more favored. Sometimes we expect God to change things slowly, step by step. But there are moments when God moves suddenly. Suddenly doors open. Suddenly healing comes. Suddenly favor shows up. Suddenly you're standing in a place you never thought you'd reach. Don't underestimate what God can do quickly when the time is right. Your faith, especially the faith you held on to when nothing was changing, has been preparing this moment. Every time you chose hope over fear, every time you trusted God when you didn't understand, every time you kept going when quitting felt easier, that faith is about to be rewarded. You're stepping into favor you didn't earn, can't explain, and don't deserve, but God gives it anyway. Favor that will put you in the right place at the right time. Favor that will open doors no one can shut. Favor that will protect you, elevate you, and surprise you. And here's the best part. This change will not be temporary. It's not a short season of blessing followed by struggle again. God is about to establish you, to plant you in a new place, to give you stability, peace, and joy that lasts. This is a forever shift. So lift your expectations. Get ready in your spirit. Speak words of faith even if you don't see it yet, because God is about to change your life forever. And when He does, it will be unmistakably clear that only He could have done it. Hold on, stay faithful. Your turning point is here. There are seasons in life when everything feels uncertain, when nothing seems to make sense, and you begin to wonder why you're walking through so much resistance at the same time. You didn't plan for it to happen this way. You didn't expect the delay, the loss, the confusion, or the waiting. But hear this clearly. This is not a random season. It is a divine setup. God has not stepped away from your life. He has stepped in more deeply than ever before. Even if you can't see it yet, what feels like chaos is often God's coordination. While you're trying to figure out what went wrong, God is arranging what will go right. While you're questioning the timing, God is perfecting the details. Nothing you're facing caught Him by surprise. He saw this season long before you entered it, and He already prepared the outcome before the struggle ever began. The delay is not denial. The silence is not absence, it's preparation. Sometimes God has to remove what's familiar to introduce what's greater. That's why certain doors close that you prayed would stay open. That's why some people walked away even when you were loyal. That's why plans fell apart at the last minute. God knew that if those things stayed, they would limit where He was taking you. What looked like loss was actually God clearing space for increase. What felt like rejection was divine redirection. You may feel like you're being stretched beyond your comfort zone, pushed into unfamiliar territory, forced to rely on faith more than certainty. That's not by accident. God often does His greatest work when we no longer have control. When you can't lean on your own strength, you discover God's power. When your options run out, His purpose rises up. This season is teaching you to trust Him at a deeper level, not just when things are easy, but when nothing makes sense. There are things God is doing in you. Right now, that could never happen in comfort. Patience is being formed. Discernment is being sharpened. Pride is being replaced with humility. Fear is being confronted. Faith is being strengthened. You're becoming stronger on the inside. Even if the outside still looks uncertain, God is building a foundation that can support the blessing He's about to release. If He gave you what you prayed for too early, it would overwhelm you. That's why this season matters. You might feel hidden, overlooked, or forgotten. You're not. You're being prepared in private for what will be revealed in public. God often does His best work in unseen seasons. Roots grow deep before branches rise high. Just because people don't see progress doesn't mean progress isn't happening. Heaven sees it. God sees it. And at the right time, everyone else will too. What you're learning now will protect you later. The wisdom you're gaining through difficulty will guide you in success. The strength you're developing through pressure will keep you steady when the spotlight comes. God is not just interested in blessing you, He's interested in sustaining you. That's why this season feels intense. He's shaping you for longevity, not a moment. There are battles you're fighting now that you won't have to fight again. Once this season passes, you'll walk with a new confidence, a deeper peace, and a stronger faith. You'll know what it's like to trust God when nothing is visible. You'll carry evidence in your spirit that if God brought you through that, He can bring you through anything. This season is marking you, not breaking you. Even the opposition you're facing is part of the setup. The resistance, the criticism, the misunderstandings, they're signs that you're close to something meaningful. The enemy doesn't fight what isn't a threat. The pressure you feel is proof that what's ahead matters. God is using Hat was meant to stop you, to position you. One day you'll look back and realize this season was the turning point. You'll see how the delays align things perfectly. You'll understand why certain prayers weren't answered the way you wanted. You'll recognize how God was protecting you from things you couldn't see at the time. What once confused you will then comfort you. So don't rush this season. Don't give up in the middle of it. Don't interpret the struggle as failure. This is not punishment, it's preparation. God is setting the stage for something that will change your life in ways you never imagined. Stay faithful, stay hopeful, stay expectant. Because this is not a random season, it is a divine setup, and what God is preparing will be worth every step you took to get there. There are things you've lived through that no one else fully understands. Moments that tested your strength. Seasons that pushed you to the edge. Battles you never thought you'd win, but somehow did. You didn't just survive them by chance. You survived them because God was building something in you. What you've survived qualifies you for what's next, even if right now it feels like all you have are scars instead of rewards. It's easy to look at your past and see only the pain, the loss, the unfairness. But God sees proof that you didn't quit when it would have been understandable to walk away. Proof that you kept trusting when the answers didn't come. Proof that you stood back up after being knocked down more times than you can count. Survival is not a sign of weakness, it's evidence of resilience. And resilience is one of the greatest qualifications for the next level God has prepared. Some of the strongest people carry the quietest stories. They don't announce what they've been through. They don't wear their pain for attention. They simply keep moving forward. God notices that kind of faith. He sees the tears you wiped away before anyone else noticed. He sees the prayers you whispered when words were hard to find. He sees the nights you went to sleep tired in every way, yet still chose to believe that tomorrow could be better. The struggle didn't disqualify you, it refined you. The pressure didn't destroy you, it developed you. Each hardship strengthened your discernment. Each disappointment taught you wisdom. Each delay built patience. You may not have asked for those lessons, but they prepared you for doors that are about to open. God doesn't promote people based on comfort. He promotes based on character, and your character was forged in survival. There were seasons when you felt overlooked, when others seemed to move ahead while you were stuck dealing with issues you never chose. But God was not ignoring you. He was equipping you. What you learned in that hidden season will become your advantage in the open season. You understand compassion now. You recognize pain in others. You value peace differently. You know how to depend on God rather than on applause. Those qualities matter more than talent alone. What you survived also gave you authority. Authority to speak hope into broken situations. Authority to stand firm when things shake. Authority to believe God for more because you've seen Him carry you through less. You don't just talk about faith, you've lived it. You don't just quote promises, you've clung to them. That lived experience is powerful. It positions you to help others, to lead with authenticity, and to walk with confidence into what God has next. Sometimes you wonder why the road was so hard for you compared to others, why you had to endure more, wait longer, fight deeper battles. It's because what's ahead requires strength that can only be developed through survival. God knew where He was taking you, and He knew before at it would cost. The weight of the blessing determines the intensity of the preparation. If the process felt heavy, it's because the calling is significant. There were moments when you felt like giving up, when you questioned whether it was worth continuing, yet something inside you kept going. That wasn't just willpower, that was God sustaining you. He carried you through things that should have crushed you. He protected you when you didn't even realize you were in danger. He kept you standing when the odds were against you. That same God is not finished with you. What's next will require confidence, and survival builds that. Not confidence in yourself alone, but confidence in God's faithfulness. You know now that even if things fall apart, God remains steady. Even if plans change, His purpose does not. That assurance changes how you walk into new seasons. You don't enter afraid, you enter prepared. The scars you carry are not marks of shame, they are marks of qualification. They tell a story of endurance, grace, and growth. They remind you that you can handle more than you think because you already have. God uses people who have been tested because they can be trusted. You've been tested and you're still here. Soon you'll step into opportunities that would have overwhelmed the old version of you, but now you're ready. You've learned to trust God in uncertainty, to remain humble in hardship, and to stay faithful in waiting. Those lessons will sustain you when doors open and blessings increase. So don't minimize what you survived. Don't rush past it or try to forget it. Let it remind you that you are stronger, wiser, and more prepared than you realize. God never wastes survival. He uses it as qualification. And what's next will make sense of what was. There are seasons when simply making it through the day feels like a victory. You wake up already tear-eyed, carrying responsibilities, pressures, and unanswered questions, doing your best just to hold things together. You've learned how to stretch what little you have, how to stay strong when support was limited, how to keep believing even when resources were low. That was survival mode, and it took courage to live there. But hear this clearly, God is shifting you from survival to overflow. Survival taught you discipline. It taught you focus. It taught you how to pray with sincerity and depend on God with your whole heart. In those moments when you didn't have options, you learned how to trust. You learned how to wait. You learned how to keep your faith alive even when circumstances tried to suffocate it. Survival was not failure, it was training. And now that training is about to give way to abundance. Overflow doesn't always start with an instant miracle. Often it begins with a change in mindset. God starts by expanding your vision. before He expands your resources. He shifts how you see yourself, how you see your future, how you see what's possible. You stop thinking in terms of barely enough and begin believing for more than enough. You stop expecting lack and start anticipating provision. That internal shift is the signal that a new season is approaching. There were times you prayed just to get through. You asked God for strength, endurance, and peace, and He met you there. Now He's inviting you to pray bigger prayers, prayers that go beyond survival, prayers that ask for growth, influence, stability, and joy. God is not limited by what you've been through. He's not intimidated by your past. He's ready to show you a side of His goodness you haven't yet experienced. You may still feel cautious because survival taught you to be careful. It taught you to guard yourself, to expect setbacks, to prepare for disappointment. That's understandable, but overflow requires trust. It requires believing that God can sustain what He gives. The same God who kept you alive in lack can keep you grounded in abundance. He's not bringing you into overflow to overwhelm you. He's bringing you into it to bless you and those around you. Overflow is not just about material things. It's peace that remains even when life is busy. It's joy that doesn't disappear when challenges arise. It's clarity where there used to be confusion. It's relationships that are healthy instead of draining. It's opportunities that align with your purpose. God's idea of overflow touches every area of your life, not just one. The shift often happens quietly. One day you realize you're no longer anxious about the things that once kept you awake. One day you notice that doors are opening with less resistance. One day you catch yourself smiling, feeling hopeful again. That's God moving you forward. He doesn't always announce the transition, but you feel it in your spirit. There may be moments when you're tempted to go back into survival thinking, especially when challenges appear. But remember, overflow doesn't mean the absence of obstacles. It means the presence of grace. You'll still face opposition, but it won't drain you like it used to. You'll still work hard, but it won't feel empty. God is teaching you how to live from a place of fullness rather than fear. What once consumed all your energy will no longer control you. God is restoring strength, creativity, and confidence. He's giving you margin where there used to be pressure, space to breathe, space to grow, space to dream again. Survival narrowed your focus to what was urgent. Overflow expands it to what is possible. You didn't survive by accident. God kept you because He had more in mind. The reason you didn't break is because He was preserving you for this shift. Now He's inviting you to step into a new rhythm, Nate, where you trust His provision instead of managing scarcity, where you give generously instead of holding tightly, where you expect goodness instead of just hoping for relief. This shift won't happen because you suddenly become perfect or fearless. It will happen because you continue to trust God just as you did in survival. The same faith that sustains you will now elevate you. God is not asking you to forget where you came from. He's asking you to move forward from it. So lift your expectations. Release the mindset of barely enough. Make room in your heart for more. God is not finished with you. He is shifting you from survival to overflow. And this new season will prove that what once kept you alive is now giving way to a life filled with abundance, purpose, and peace. There are prayers you prayed with deep faith that seem to disappear into silence. You asked sincerely, believed fully, and waited patiently, yet nothing appeared to change. Days turned into months, months into years, and the answer never came the way you expected. In those moments, it's easy to wonder if God heard you at all. But hear this with assurance. Delayed prayers are not denied prayers. They are often reserved for the right moment, and that moment is closer than you think. God's timing rarely matches our expectations, but it is always precise. When an answer doesn't come immediately, it doesn't mean God said no. It often means God is aligning circumstances you cannot see. He works beyond your view, arranging people, opportunities, and conditions that must be in place before the blessing can arrive. What feels like waiting is often preparation in progress. There were seasons when you prayed just to hold on, asking God for strength rather than solutions. You kept believing even when doubt tried to creep in. That kind of faith matters. Faith that endures silence is powerful. It shows trust that goes deeper than results. God honors perseverance, and He never forgets a prayer spoken with a sincere heart. Sometimes God delays an answer, not because He's unwilling, but because you're becoming ready. The waiting season changes you. It sharpens your discernment, deepens your humility, and strengthens your dependence on God rather than outcomes. If the prayer had been answered too soon, it might have distracted you or overwhelmed you. God knows exactly when you can handle what you're asking for. There are prayers that require more than one move from heaven. They involve timing, growth, and alignment. God sees the full picture while we see only a part. What you're asking for may affect others, shape your future, and influence your purpose. God takes all of that into account. That's why the answer comes when everything is ready, not just when you are tired of waiting. The silence you experienced was not God ignoring you, it was God protecting you. He was keeping you from settling too soon, from accepting less than His best. He was preserving you for something greater than what you originally imagined. Often what God delivers after a delay exceeds what you first prayed for. When the answer comes, it often comes suddenly. What took years to prepare may take moments to manifest. One conversation, one decision, one opportunity can shift everything. That's how God works. Suddenly, doors open that no one can shut. Suddenly, healing begins. Suddenly, clarity replaces confusion. Suddenly, you realize the waiting wasn't wasted. Your testimony will not be built only on the blessing, but on the journey. You'll remember the nights you prayed through tears, the days you chose faith over frustration. Those moments will give your story weight and meaning. A sudden testimony carries power because it's backed by persistent faith. There were times you were tempted to give up praying about certain things. You thought maybe it wasn't meant to be, maybe you should stop believing. But God saw every prayer you laid down and picked back up again. He saw your honesty, your disappointment, your hope. None of it was wasted. Heaven records prayers differently than time does. Delayed answers often create deeper gratitude. When the breakthrough finally arrives, you recognize it as grace, not coincidence. You appreciate it differently because you remember what it cost to wait. You hold it with humility because you know it came from God, not from your own effort. Even now, God is working in ways you can't yet see. The pieces are moving. The timing is aligning. The people you need are being prepared. What feels slow to you is swift in the hands of God. He is never late. He arrives exactly when His purpose requires. Soon, you'll look back and see how the delay protected you, strengthened you, and positioned you. You'll realize that if the prayer had been answered earlier, you wouldn't have been ready to receive it fully. The delay was part of the gift. So don't stop believing. Don't stop praying. Don't assume silence means refusal. God is faithful to His promises. What you've been waiting on is not forgotten. It is scheduled. And when it arrives, it will be sudden, undeniable, and unmistakably God. There were moments when the wait felt unbearable, when you wondered how much more you could take before something inside you gave way. You faced situations that were never meant to be easy, pressures that tested not just your strength, but your faith. What tried to break you came in many forms: betrayal, loss, rejection, disappointment, silence. At the time, it felt cruel and unnecessary. But now God is turning the story around. What tried to break you is about to bless you. Pain has a way of making us question purpose. When things fall apart, it's natural to ask why God would allow it. Yet God often allows what He plans to use. The struggle was not sent to destroy you, but to develop you. The very thing that made you feel weak forced you to grow strong in ways comfort never could. You didn't realize it then, but every tear, every setback, every unanswered question was shaping you for something greater. The betrayal you experienced taught you discernment. You learned not everyone who walks with you is meant to go where you're going. The loss you endured taught you gratitude for what truly matters. The rejection you felt taught you self-worth that doesn't depend on approval. Those lessons didn't come easily, but they came powerfully. And now they are becoming blessings instead of burdens. What once drained you is now equipping you. The hardship refined your character. It stripped away pride, exposed hidden strengths, and deepened your dependence on God. You learned how to pray when words were few. You learned how to trust when answers were slow. You learned how to keep moving forward when giving up felt justified. Those qualities are priceless, and they position you for the next season. God has a way of using opposition as preparation. The resistance you faced was evidence that you were moving towards something significant. You don't fight what doesn't matter. The pressure didn't mean you were off course. It meant you were close. What tried to stop you actually pushed you forward even when you couldn't see it. There were seasons when you felt alone, misunderstood, and overlooked. But God was working in those quiet moments. He was strengthening your inner life, building your faith, and teaching you how to stand without applause. When the blessing comes, you'll be grounded enough to handle it. You won't be moved by opinions or shaken by challenges because you've already survived worse. The pain also gave you compassion. You understand others differently now. You notice struggles you once overlooked. You speak with empathy instead of judgment. That ability to connect, to encourage, to lift others up is a blessing in itself. God often heals us in ways that allow us to become a source of healing for others. What tried to break you is also giving you authority. Authority to speak hope into dark situations. Authority to believe God for the impossible. Authority to walk with confidence because you know what it's like to be carried by grace. You don't just talk about faith, you've lived it. That lived faith is powerful. The shift may not be obvious at first. Blessings don't always arrive wrapped the way we expect. Sometimes they show up as clarity, peace, or opportunity. Sometimes they look like new strength, restored joy, or renewed purpose. But one day you'll realize that what once hurt you is now helping you. The very experience you wish you could erase becomes the testimony that propels you forward. God is not minimizing what you went through. He saw it all. He was with you through every moment. And now He is redeeming it. Nothing is wasted in His hands. The enemy's attempt to break you has failed, and God is using the fragments to build something beautiful. Soon you'll see how the struggle positioned you, how the pain refined you, how the hardship prepared you. You'll recognize that without it, you wouldn't be who you are now. And who you are now is ready for the blessing that's coming. So don't resent the past. Don't be ashamed of the scars. They are proof that you survived and that God sustained you. What tried to break you didn't win. It became the foundation for what God is about to bless you with. More strength, more purpose, and a future filled with hope. There are moments when it feels like nothing is changing. When you've been faithful, consistent, and patient, yet your situation looks the same day after day. You pray, you believe, you do the right things, and still the breakthrough seems distant. It's easy to assume that if God is going to move, it will happen slowly, step by step, little by little. But there are times when God does not work gradually. There are moments when God changes lives suddenly. All throughout life, God allows seasons of waiting, not because He's unwilling to act, but because He's preparing the moment. What looks like stillness is often buildup. Just as pressure gathers before a release, God is arranging things in ways you cannot see. When the time is right, what took years to prepare can shift in an instant. One moment you're struggling, the next moment you're stepping into favor. One moment you're praying, the next moment you're praising. Sudden change doesn't mean you weren't progressing before. It means your progress was hidden. Faithfulness often looks quiet. Consistency rarely feels dramatic, but every prayer, every act of obedience, every choice to trust God was adding to the momentum. You were moving forward even when it felt like you were standing still. God never forgets faith that endures. There are breakthroughs that come without warning, healing that happens faster than expected, doors that open that no one thought would open, answers that arrive when hope feels thin. God specializes in moments that remind you it was never about your effort alone. When change happens suddenly, it leaves no doubt that it was God who did it. Sudden change also protects you from relying on your own understanding. If everything unfolded slowly, you might take credit for the outcome. But when God moves quickly, you know it wasn't luck, timing, or strategy. It was grace. God steps in at the moment when only He can get the glory. You may feel unqualified, unprepared, or unsure of how thin GS could shift so quickly. But sudden change doesn't require your readiness. It requires God's authority. When He decides the time has come, circumstances align. People change. Opportunities appear. Resistance fades. What once seemed impossible becomes undeniable. The waiting season is not wasted. It builds faith that can handle sudden blessing. Without that foundation, quick change would overwhelm you. God ensures your heart is ready, even if your situation isn't. He strengthens you internally so that when the external shift happens, you can stand steady. Sudden change doesn't mean there won't be challenges afterward. It means the direction changes instantly, even if the journey continues. The breakthrough may come in a moment, but growth continues over time. God changes the course suddenly, then walks with you as you adjust. Sometimes sudden change comes after you've reached the end of your own strength. When you've done all you can do, God steps in to do what you cannot. That's often how He works. He waits until it's clear that the outcome depends on Him, not on human effort. There are lives that change in a single conversation, a single encounter, a single decision. God knows exactly what moment will shift everything. He knows how to bring restoration, promotion, healing, and peace in ways that exceed expectation. If you're in a season where nothing seems to be happening, don't assume nothing is happening. God is setting the stage. He is aligning timing, people, and purpose. When He moves, it will be faster than you imagine. So stay faithful, stay expectant. Don't measure God's work by what you see today. He is not limited by time or process. When God decides it's time, lives change suddenly, and yours is no exception. There were many days when your faith felt unnoticed, even insignificant. You kept believing without applause, trusting without evidence, praying without immediate answers. No one saw the quiet choices you made to hold on when letting go would have been easier. Yet every one of those moments mattered. Your faith was not wasted. It was quietly preparing this moment. Faith doesn't always announce itself with dramatic changes. Often it works in silence, shaping you on the inside while life on the outside looks the same. You showed up when you felt tired. You kept your heart open when disappointment tried to close it. You chose hope when fear seemed more reasonable. Those choices built a foundation that could support what God is about to release in your life. You may have wondered if your faith was enough. You compared yourself to others who seemed to move ahead faster, whose prayers appeared to be answered sooner. But faith is not measured by speed, it's measured by endurance. The faith that stays when nothing is happening is the faith God trusts with more. You stayed, you believed, you waited. That quiet perseverance has been shaping your future. Every season of waiting strengthened your spiritual muscles. Every unanswered prayer deepened your trust. Every delay refined your motives. You learned how to seek God for who He is, not just for what He can do. That kind of faith is rare and valuable. God honors faith that remains steady even when the outcome is uncertain. While you felt hidden, God was working. He was aligning details you couldn't see, preparing people you hadn't met, arranging opportunities that didn't yet exist. Your faith kept you positioned. It kept you available. It kept you ready. Even when it felt like nothing was moving, your faith was moving you closer to this moment. Quiet faith also taught you humility. You learned not to rely on recognition or validation. You learned how to stand firm without praise. That humility will protect you when doors open and blessings increase. You'll walk into the next season grounded, not entitled, grateful rather than proud. There were moments when your faith was tested hardest, when doubt whispered that nothing would change. Yet you chose to trust anyway. That decision mattered. Faith that survives doubt is stronger than faith that never encounters it. You didn't ignore your questions. You brought them to God. That honesty deepened your relationship with Him. Your faith also taught you how to listen. In the quiet seasons, you learn to recognize God's voice without distractions. You learn to sense His guidance without constant signs. That sensitivity will serve you well as you move forward. You'll know when to step, when to wait, when to speak, and when to be still. Now, as things begin to shift, it may feel sudden to you, but it wasn't sudden to God. This moment has been in preparation for a long time. Every prayer you prayed, every tear you shed, every step of obedience you took contributed to this season. Nothing was wasted. You are stepping into this moment with more strength than you realize. Your faith has matured. Your perspective has widened. Your heart has been shaped by grace. You are ready for what's next, even if it feels unfamiliar. So don't underestimate the power of the faith you carried quietly. It prepared you when no one was watching. It positioned you when progress wasn't visible. And now, as doors open and opportunities arise, you'll realize that this moment is not an accident. It is the result of faith that never gave up. Your faith has been quietly preparing this moment, and what's ahead will prove that God was working all along. There are moments when you look at what's unfolding in your life and realize it doesn't add up by human standards. You know you didn't have all the qualifications. You know you didn't do everything perfectly. You know there were times you fell short, hesitated, or felt unsure. Yet doors are opening, opportunities are appearing, and peace is settling in your spirit. That's because you're stepping into favor you didn't earn, but received. Favor is not a reward for perfection, it's a gift of grace. If it were based only on effort, none of us would qualify. God's favor shows up not because you did everything right, but because you trusted Him even when you didn't understand. It's God saying, I see your heart, I see your faith, I see your willingness. And He responds with kindness you couldn't produce on your own. There were seasons when you worked hard and still felt overlooked. Times when others advanced while you waited. Moments when you questioned if your obedience even mattered. But favor doesn't operate on human timelines. It arrives when God knows it will have the greatest impact. The waiting wasn't rejection, it was alignment. God was positioning you so that when favor arrived, it would place you exactly where you needed to be. You may feel unworthy of what's coming, but that feeling is actually a sign that it's grace. Earned things often feed pride. Received things build gratitude. Favor humbles you. It reminds you that God is good, not that you are perfect. And humility is what allows you to carry favor without being changed by it. Favor often surprises you. It shows up through unexpected people, unusual opportunities, and uncommon timing. Conversations go better than you expected. Situations resolve in ways you couldn't plan. Resistance softens. God smooths paths you thought would be difficult. That's not coincidence. That's favor at work. This favor doesn't mean life will be free of challenges. It means challenges won't stop you. Favor gives you access where others face barriers. It gives you peace in uncertainty and confidence in transition. It gives you the assurance that God is involved in the details of your life. You didn't earn this favor by striving. You received it by staying faithful, by choosing integrity when compromise was easier, by choosing patience when frustration was loud, by choosing hope when discouragement felt logical. Those choices didn't earn favor in a transactional sense, but they positioned you to receive it. As you step into this season, you may feel a responsibility to prove you deserve it. Release that pressure. Favor is not something you maintain through performance, something you steward through gratitude. Stay thankful, stay grounded, stay generous. Favor grows best in a heart that remains humble. Others may not understand why things are working out for you. They may question your timing or your path. That's okay. Favor is not always explainable. It's evidence of God's hand, not human approval. You don't need to defend what God has given you. This season will require trust. Trust that God knew what He was doing when He opened the door. Trust that He will continue to guide you as you walk through it. Favor doesn't end when the door opens. It continues as you move forward. Soon you'll look back and realize how perfectly things aligned, how delays protected you, how closed doors saved you, how timing mattered more than speed. Favor didn't rush you, it prepared you. So walk confidently, not arrogantly, gratefully, not fearfully. You are stepping into favor you didn't earn but received. And this season will be marked not by striving, but by grace. There are times in life when change feels fleeting. You've experienced moments of joy that didn't last, opportunities that slipped away, and blessings that seemed to fade as quickly as they arrived. It's natural to wonder if the next shift in your life will be any different, if the breakthrough you're anticipating will stick, or if the favor you receive will hold. But hear this clearly, the change God is bringing into your life now will be permanent, not temporary. Temporary change is often visible, but it doesn't transform the heart. It may improve circumstances for a while, but it doesn't sustain peace, purpose, or fulfillment. Permanent change, however, starts deep within. It affects your perspective, reshapes your habits, and aligns your spirit with God's plan. This is the kind of change God specializes in. It's the kind that lasts because it's anchored in Him, not in CI. Circumstances or human effort. You may have struggled through seasons where progress seems slow or non-existent. You may have felt stuck in patterns of disappointment or frustration. Yet all of that was preparing you for this permanent shift. God often allows temporary setbacks to teach patience, refine character, and strengthen faith. What may have felt like delay was actually preparation. Every challenge you endured, every test you faced, and every obstacle you overcame has been laying the groundwork for lasting transformation. Permanent change is marked by alignment with God's purpose. When God intervenes, He doesn't just adjust a situation temporarily. He positions you for sustained growth. He doesn't hand you a quick fix that will fade. He establishes a foundation that supports blessings, favor, and influence that endure. This is why faithfulness during the waiting season matters so much. It ensures that when change comes, it comes fully and sticks. The beauty of permanent change is that it transcends circumstances. Even when challenges arise, the transformation remains. Your mindset shifts, your character strengthens, and your faith deepens in ways that can't be shaken by external pressures. You'll notice a confidence and clarity that weren't there before. You'll walk with a sense of security, knowing that God has not only changed your situation, but has changed you. One of the hallmarks of this kind of change is that it affects multiple areas of your life simultaneously. It's not limited to finances, relationships, or career alone. Permanent change influences your emotional well-being, your spiritual growth, and your ability to impact others positively. It creates momentum that carries forward, building on itself rather than fading after a short time. This change often comes when you've reached the end of your own strength. When you've exhausted every option and turned to God fully, His power moves. That's when permanence begins. God does not rely on human effort alone. He steps in to establish a shift that endures. You may not see it immediately, but His work is deep, thorough, and unstoppable. Part of what makes this change lasting is God's involvement. Human fixes can be temporary because people are imperfect. Circumstances are unpredictable and understanding is limited. God's work is different. His plans are eternal, His timing perfect, and His promises unbreakable. When He intervenes, what He does cannot be undone by circumstance, mistake, or opposition. That is the assurance of permanence. The mindset required to embrace this lasting change is one of faith and expectation. You must trust that God is not giving you a temporary gift. You must believe that He is establishing you for a new reality. Doubt and hesitation can delay the manifestation, but they cannot stop what God has ordained. As you step forward in obedience, gratitude, and hope, you participate in the permanence of what He is creating. Permanent change also requires a willingness to release the old. Sometimes holding on to past patterns, disappointments, or ways of thinking can hinder lasting transformation. God invites you to let go, to trust Him completely, and to embrace the new life He is providing. This release is not loss, it's preparation for something greater. It makes space for blessings that will endure. As this change unfolds, you'll notice a shift in how you respond to life. You'll have resilience that wasn't there before. You'll carry peace even in storms. You'll act with confidence, knowing that God's work in your life cannot be reversed. The permanence of His change protects you, guides you, and empowers you to live in victory. Consistently. Eventually, you will look back and recognize the difference between temporary fixes and God's permanent intervention. You will see how previous challenges were necessary, how past delays were intentional, and how every step brought you closer to this enduring transformation. The lessons you've learned, the strength you've gained, and the faith you've developed will all serve as anchors holding you steady in this new reality. So embrace this season with anticipation and confidence. Celebrate the signs of change as they appear, but understand that the true work is deeper than what the eye sees. God is not providing a fleeting moment of relief. He is orchestrating a permanent shift that will impact your life for years to come. Hold on to faith, walk with gratitude, and step boldly into the reality God is creating. This change is not temporary. It is eternal in its influence, rooted in His power and guaranteed by His promises.